Hello, everybody. My name's Gary Pretty. I'm one of the Microsoft MVPs alongside James, who delivered the last session. And today I'm going to be talking to you over two sessions, with this one covering the Q&A maker and the next one covering form flow and application insights. So the Q&A maker is part of the Cognitive Services suite, and for those of you who don't know, the Cognitive Services is a project that started out within Microsoft Research and includes not only the Q&A maker, but other services like Lewis, which you can use for language understanding, the Translation API, which you can use to create multilingual bots, but they're just three of them. And there are actually 25 different services available within the Cognitive Services suite, and I'd really encourage you all to have a look through them and see where they might assist you in building your bots, because fundamentally this is where the bot intelligence comes from. So the bot framework will handle all of those, the communications between your channels and your bot. That takes away and abstracts all of that complexity. But if you want your bot to be doing language understanding or intelligently picking Q&A answers, which we're going to look at today, the Cognitive Services is where it's at. So you need to be having a look at those services and seeing how you can take advantage of them. And they're really simple to get started with. All of the Cognitive Services are just REST APIs, so you don't have to use them within a bot. They could be used within a website, a mobile app, but obviously today we're talking about them, and this week within the context of a bot. You can call them from both C# and Node, and there are various integrations available from the bot framework directly, so you don't have to write a lot of that boilerplate code. So what is the Q&A maker? We've all got Q&As on our websites. We've all used FAQs before, but it's really frustrating sometimes for a user who visit a website, and in order to find out an answer to a question, they might have to navigate to an FAQ page and then browse through all of the available questions to see if there's a particular answer that might suit them. And within a bot, we don't really have the same luxury even. We can't give them, we could give them a whole set of questions and answers and have them scroll through the conversation, but it's probably not the best customer experience. And the Q&A maker allows us to pass in a set of questions and answers, and that will build a model, a conversational model around your FAQs and help you intelligently pick the right answer for the user based on their query. So in the same way that the Lewis service, if some of you have used Lewis, I know a lot of you will have been working with it this morning, in the same way that will intelligently pick out the user's intent based on the query, this does the same thing for FAQs. Okay, so let's take this page as an example, the Azure Support FAQ page. As I said, they've got many, many questions here, each one with its own answer. So how can we use this and build it into a bot? Over at QnAmaker.ai, which is where you want to be heading and signing up for a free account, you can create a new service. In this instance, I've called it Hack Demo, and I've just simply placed in the URL to my FAQ page. And what the service will try and do is parse your page and pick out the questions and answers that it can find. If you don't have an FAQ page, then you can also upload your own sets of question and answer pairs as well. Or you can start completely from scratch once you've got the service going and actually add questions once your service has been created. So right now the service is off interrogating that page, trying to identify the questions and answers. And as you can see here, it's actually pulled out all of those questions and answers from that page, and they're now in my knowledge base and ready to go. If we switch over to the Test tab, we actually then have a bot emulator, and this is the way that you can test your service, your Q&A service, but also train it. So if I was to say something like, what is a preview service? It's then going to go away and try and find me the most appropriate answer within the knowledge base. So in this instance, I could say, if I wanted to, as it happens, it's picked out the right one for me. But I could also say, well, actually, no, this particular question should be responded to using a different answer. Or you might have some telemetry from a call center, for example, where you're seeing the sorts of questions that people are asking and the way in which they're asking them, because quite often the questions that are on our FAQ pages aren't written in a conversational manner. So we can actually add alternative questions here as well. So we could say, well, actually, somebody might type in, what does preview mean? And we can give it alternatives. And over time, we can build up this knowledge base and make it more intelligent. Once you're done, you click Save and Retrain, and that applies to the first time that you're making the service, but also when you're making updates as well. And then when you're ready and you're happy with the knowledge base as it stands, then you publish your service. That just takes us a couple of seconds, as you can see. And right away now we've got our REST endpoint, which we can call. And handily, on the Learn How page, it's got some code samples there to show you how you could tie up the service in your bot or in another application. So there's a C# sample here as to how you can call the service. So how can we actually go about integrating that with a bot? Well, the first thing to call out is I've got a QnA Maker Dialog NuGet package, which you can install into your application. And this actually makes integrating with the service super simple. Out of the box, obviously James did a session covering dialogues. You can create a separate dialogue that just handles your Q&A queries and responses. So out of the box, the only thing you need to provide are your subscription ID and your knowledge base ID as part of the QnA Maker service attribute. And you can specify your no match handler. So in the case that an answer is not found, then you can specify what should actually happen, when that happens, and what message you want to deliver back to the user. So if I've already got this bot running. If I head over to the emulator and I ask the same question as I asked before, hopefully that's going to find the answer that we got earlier on. There we go. So it's the same answer. So right there, with just those few lines of code, we've actually integrated our bot with the FAQ, the QnA Maker service. And the great thing about this is the fact that this is content manageable. So you can build your bot, you can deploy your bot, and then let's say something happens that affects your particular customers or your business, and you need to make your bot aware of some answers to questions that weren't being asked yesterday. Something particular happens. You can actually come into the QnA Maker service, add some new question and answer pairs, retrain it, republish it without touching the bot, and your bot will automatically respond to those questions then, which is really, really helpful in terms of handling those common queries. So a couple of other scenarios I wanted to call out. As part of the response from the QnA Maker, we get a confidence score. So in the same way that within Lewis, you'll get a score between 0 and 1 in terms of how confident it is in that the top intent applies to the query that you've passed in, you get the same thing with the QnA Maker. So you might get it saying 0.5. And what that actually means is, it's between 0 and 100, so it might say 50. It's 50% confident that the answer it's given you is related to the query. If it's a higher number, sort of 90, 99, then it's a lot more confident that that's the right answer. And you might want to alter your responses depending on those responses. So what we can actually do with this dialogue is actually create handlers for those different response levels. So here we can say, for any answers that the QnA Maker service sends back that are up to between 0 and 40, so 0 and 40% confidence in terms of the answer, actually, I don't necessarily want to give those to the user because there's a very good chance that they don't answer the question. And there you might maybe ask a clarification question or point them to a different knowledge base or hand them off to a human. In the case that they are between 40 and 70% in this example, we might want to say, I think I found an answer that's useful. Then give them the answer and then maybe prompt them to say, was that helpful? And you could gather the telemetry, which I'll be talking about in the next session, to actually determine how you build the bot out in the future. Maybe you're missing a use case that people are asking for, or you can add some new question and answer pairs. And obviously you could have a response handler here for up to 100%, but by default, anything that's not handled by one of these handlers, it will just send back the answer that it receives from the service. The other thing is that the QnA Maker at the moment, out of the box, is only text-based. So you send in a query and you get a response. So if we hop over to the QnA Maker service, again here, we've obviously got our questions and we've got our text-based answers. Now, one of the things you can do with the bot framework is send attachments with messages. So you can send videos down with a particular piece of text. And in an FAQ scenario, it could be really useful to send things like video or images along with your answers. So what I've done is you can actually add some attachment markup into the answer itself. So here I've created an attachment markup tag, and I've specified the content type. So in this case, it's MP4, and I've specified the URL to the video and the thumbnail. And what that actually allows me to do by default is the QnA Maker dialog will interpret that, will strip that text out of the answer and attach the appropriate video to the answer before it sends it back to the user. Now, in the case that you're not using handlers, it will do all of that for you. But let's say you are using a handler, then there's a little bit more work to do, but it's not a lot. So in this example, I've got a high score handler up to 90%, and there's a method process result and create message activity. So all you do when you get your response back from the QnA Maker, the QnA Maker result, you pass that into this method. And what that will actually do, it will strip out the text from the answer, the tag, and it will create that message activity for you and you can send that straight back to the user. And also, because it's a fairly high scoring handler, I've said, great news, I found an answer to your question, and then I can simply post the reply back to the user. So that's it from this session, but I did want to call out just a few resources. I blog a lot over at garypritty.co.uk where I'm talking about QnA Maker and form flow and all the things that you're going to be covering this week. You can also find me on Twitter at garypritty. I'm always happy to help, as part of the MVP community. We love nothing more than hearing from people who've got, an issue or they're trying to achieve a particular use case. Please do reach out. I know James is the same. James is happy to hear from people as well, and we'll do our best to help you work through your scenario. You can find the QnA Maker dialog along with some other packages for doing things like handling manners within a bot. So those common phrases, hi, thank you, how are you feeling, are you real, all over at my GitHub repository as well. And I did want to call out that James, who delivered the last session, one of my fellow MVPs, has got a bunch of fantastic videos on YouTube that covers a lot of these topics. So I tend to write the blogs, so if you're into reading your blog posts, head over to my site. If you prefer to watch a video and see somebody actually building some of these scenarios out, just head to YouTube and just search for James Mann and Bot Framework, and you'll find a ton of videos, Node.js and C# that are really going to help you. So that's it from me for this session, and I'll deliver the Form Flow and App Insight session at 3 o'clock. Thank you.